We are back when the needle drops. I am your host, Maka. It has been a while. Hiatus, I would say, or a sabbatical. Don't really know what way I put it, but what a guest to come back to. I met this guy, I think roughly we were speaking about 5 or 6 years ago. He is pushing the new sound that's coming out of the UK over in Australia right now. And I am so pleased to have him on the show. I know him as Ben. You are going to know him as Uberjak'd. So, ladies and gentlemen, Uberjak'd. Ben, how are you, mate?
I'm fantastic, mate. Thanks for having me on. It's good to see you again.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's what we were saying. It's been so long that you don't even, time's just lapse and you forget how long it's been. And then I think back and I go, wow, that's 6 years. That's a long time.
Man, it's pretty crazy. I mean, like, I don't know if anyone else feels the same, but it's like those couple years where nothing's happening is just almost like it's like they were just erased. They don't exist. It's like so
Yeah.
it doesn't. I mean, it seems like a long time, but it doesn't feel like that long.
It doesn't feel like that long that we were in Vicky's and we were, drinking till 5, 6 in the morning and those kind of
Mate,
things.
always remember the good times, the shit times to fuck off.
Absolutely, fuck, I know, mate, absolutely. So Ben, my guess, I always like to, try and take things back to where it all began for them. Tell me what was your first kind of take into music? I assume it wasn't always dance music. Was there anything that got you more into music growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like music production. I fell into that. There's a bit of a random story behind that. Do you want me to tell you about it?
Absolutely, of course, mate. The listeners are always keen to hear the
Yeah.
stories from my guests.
Yeah. So like back when I was just finished high school, I was like into cars, bit of a hoon. I don't know if hoon a word over there?
Yeah, I don't. You're probably going to need to describe what a hoon is to the listeners over here.
So hoon is like Aussie word for just like a little shit goes around doing
Okay.
burnouts
Yeah,
and stuff like
that
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 on the
that
weekend.
that would be a Ned or a Bam over here.
Yeah, fucking like a band. So yeah, that was my shit. I would just go around with my boys and would cause a bit of mischief in our cars, and that was fun to me. Um, so I did that for probably a few years even. And this like I always was like kind of interested in music in a bit, but it was like wasn't really like anything. I was sort of never played any musical instruments or anything like that. So didn't
Yeah.
have a music background, whatever. So yeah, it was just like one night I was taking my car through the hills and I crashed. Had this like life changing experience. It's like lost control between these two trees, like literally like centimeters away from falling to my fucking death, basically. And
Yeah.
I remember grabbing the and just going, um, Ben, you need to get yourself a new hobby. And just having this thought to my head, and I was like, got my car towed home or to the wreckers. I can't remember which one first. So I kind of just wanted to get the car out of there because if the cops came by, I would have been fucked.
Yeah. Of course.
Skid lines right up to where my car was. So yeah, I got
Guilty as charged before you've even
a
got anywhere.
guilty as
Yeah.
charged, mate. Yeah, I would have been in a lot of trouble. And I was already on like literally no demerit points. I would have been like fucking probably yeah. I was
Bye, mate.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got that home and got a cracked version of Ableton and started making beats. That's how it all started.
So that's as simple as that. Just a life changing experience, and you thought to yourself, I need to do something different. This is just not the life for me anymore.
Yeah, pretty much, man. I was just like, this hobby sucks. It's expensive, and I was like, at least with music, I was kind of like, you know, there's like more I could be create and fucking have a bit more fun with it. So
Yeah, was it the kind of an area that you grew up in that that led you into that kind of a BAM life, or was it mates? What kind of led you to that?
yeah, just schoolmates, man. Like we would just like take our cars out, go do skids, be little shits.
Yeah.
Just you know,
Oh,
that,
mate, absolutely. I can totally concur with that. I think it's quite similar to what a lot of people grew up, especially Glasgow. Glasgow in the West, it's got or did have that kind of a mentality of the BAM life when you were growing up. It's maybe not so bad now, but certainly then, yeah. But when I was growing up, it was kind of along those lines. So obviously, you said you got a cracked version at Ableton. So what was it? Was it always dance music you wanted to do, or was there other avenues that you kind of considered going down?
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked dance music, like just music that makes you move. And to be honest, like dance music was simple enough for my brain to understand how it worked. Like I've got better over the years with like musical theory and whatever you would call it, but I've always just kind of just had my process in the studio is press buttons. If it sounds better, good. If it sounds shitter,
press another button.
Yeah, press a different button. I'm no musically trained person. Like I just go with what I think sounds good. I kind of over the years have picked up a few things, but yeah, that was kind of it. I had no idea what I was doing. Just made cool sounds.
Yeah. So when you started doing it, was there any sort of influences that you had? Was there any guys that you were looking up to? Obviously, I mean, I'm thinking at that time probably would Orchestrated have been the dance guys for that type of sound at that point.
Yeah, it's funny you should actually bring up Orchestrated because I do remember actually like this is like back when I started making music. It was like nowhere near as accessible as it is now. Like it was kind of it was underground.
Yeah,
like
the glorious
YouTube,
the glorious vinyl days.
I wasn't quite that back in the day. Like I sort of come up in like the early days of when you find your tunes. Like I don't know if anyone's heard of like the blog house sort of era, like Crookers and all that shit. So you'd kind of scour the internet for like cool tunes. And I remember coming across like some Melbourne music forum and downloading a heap of illegally ripped orchestrated tunes and just thinking that sounded pretty sweet. I guess that was a kind of an influence for my style. To be honest, like I was probably more from the early days, like into like Dutch house and progressive house and stuff.
Right,
yeah. So everything's gone full circle now because like before that I was into like trance.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like that sort of nostalgic resurgence of like trance that seems to be happening right now is just kind of like pumped up fucking on steroids version of that sound, which is kind of where the inspiration for Finders Keepers came from.
Yes, I mean, it's funny you should Finders Keepers. We will get onto that in this conversation. I guarantee that. But funny you should say that. I was listening to an interview with Armin, and he was talking about, at the time where trance sort of started to decline and disappear, and people thought it wasn't, the sound was fading, and a lot of the trance DJs moved over into house, i.e. Tiesto and those kind of guys. And he was just saying that he was talking about him sticking with that trance sound because it would come full circle. And you've hit the nail on the head what you said there. We've now came to the present day, and it has completely flipped 360 and back to where it was probably 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've always liked that sort of like feeling in the like a trance record. It's like just fucking hits you differently when it's done right. And it's like now it's just kind of keeping that same feeling, but like really pumping up the production value, like big fucking kicks, like influence more from like hard style, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite the same like fast tempo, but like quicker.
Yeah.
So
I am noticing a lot of influences coming from, like, maybe when you're saying hardstyle, probably certainly like the reverse bass and all that's now coming into the trance tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
there is a huge influence coming from that. So obviously we spoke about Orchestrated at that time because I'm thinking at that time the Melbourne sound was huge, and it managed to make its way over the other side of the world to the UK, and it was huge over here, especially. Glasgow was mad for it. Absolutely mad for that Melbourne sound. You obviously seen that yourself when you came over and you done a few gigs up and down the UK. At that time, there was yourself, Joel, Will, He's done all right for himself. That Will Sparks guy, he's done okay.
Yeah, Will's killing it, man. He's on a
Yeah.
world tour at the moment, just annihilating.
He's doing okay in his vibe. But at that point, obviously, as I'm saying, there was you, Will, Joe. Was there any sort of other guys around about that kind of a era that were, that you thought to yourself, these guys are going to be big, and it's just they've kind of fell by the wayside leading up to where you guys are now?
I don't know, man. I don't really know how to answer that question, to be honest. I guess like it was a pretty interesting time and pretty like pretty cool thing to be a part of. That whole Melbourne bounce fucking period.
Yeah.
Yeah, people going nuts for it. Like it was pretty sweet sort of couple of years where it was just seemed like the genre was like, I don't know, everyone wanted it, like over in America and Europe and everything. So I think it's kind of cool. Like everything's kind of coming full circle again because like, now I'm incorporating those Melbourne bouncy type sounds back into my tracks again, but in a different way. So like, some of the, people have heard my earlier sound could probably hear a little bit of that Melbourne-y sort of influence on Finders Keepers, which is kind of where I'm
Trying to take it. Yeah.
Just want to take some old stuff in a new direction.
Because I think at that point, as you say, the Melbourne sound, I think everybody thought it was going to completely take over. 128, at that time there was the big EDM stuff, the big room stuff, and then there was the Melbourne sound, which was a lot more bouncier and happier, and people just seemed to incorporate that and take it into their going out or gigs or whatever it may have been. They just seemed to just take to the sound.
I mean it definitely seemed like a lot of people liked it.
Yeah. So I mean, moving on, you sort of kind of left that Melbourne type sound, and I kind of noticed in your music there was a lot more of a harder aspect to it. Was that always something that you wanted to do, or was it just was that just progression into maybe accidentally into that you've just heard a sound and thought I'm going to use that and it's worked for you?
Yeah, I mean I've always been like, it's probably something that like maybe some people hate me for it, maybe some people love me for it, but I like to evolve shit, and that was like where my change in tastes kind of came from, as I kind of got to a point where I wasn't feeling like inspired doing that Melbourne bouncy sound. I felt like I'd already done everything that I needed to do with it, and just been sort of experimenting with different styles and stuff. And yeah, it's taken a while for me to kind of get somewhere where I feel like I'm creating something unique again. Yeah. So I've been experimenting like a lot of different stuff. Like if I look back over the last 3 or 4 years, I mean, I've made dubstep, fucking hardstyle, house, techno, all this different shit, just experimenting. I find something that catches. And it's only really, I feel personally in the last few months, I'm starting to make some stuff that like I'm excited by again, which is.
Yeah. I think that is one thing that certainly as a producer or a DJ, you have to get to a point where you're back falling in love with what you're doing, because it's very easy, and a lot of people probably don't actually understand it unless they're involved in the scene. It is really easy to fall out of love with something that you're persistently doing and consistently doing, because as the repetitiveness goes, it starts to get monotonous, and you think to yourself, here we go again, same sound, same vibe, and then you're trying to find something different to keep yourself going as a DJ and producer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So as I kind of touched on there about you moving into your harder kind of sound, probably leads us on to where we're coming to now. But before we get to that, and I know a lot of people don't like talking about it because it was, it's a distant memory, but how was things for you over the last 2.5 years with everything that was happening? And because I know Australia got hit hard with restrictions, and your clubs were, they were the first to go and the last to come back, and they were, it was difficult for you guys over there. How were things for you from 2020 to where you've got to now?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'd be lying if I didn't say it wasn't challenging. Like
Yeah.
everyone's sort of had some shit that they weren't ready to deal with, that they just kind of had to deal with. But I just took it as a chance, man, just to like, you know, experiment with some new sounds, try some new things. Worked out a lot of shit that I didn't like.
Yeah.
So it kind of came out at the end of it. Like now I've got a really, really, really good idea of what I want to do. So
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So within those 2 years, was that where was it within the lockdown period that you had the idea for what is now Finders Keepers?
Yeah. I mean that's probably the one tune that I was sort of working back and forth. It was actually started off as some weird techno thing that I made on a live stream.
As always happens, isn't it?
Like, if people, maybe some people would fucking remember, but like I did a live stream or two and there was parts of Finders Keepers in that. I think that was the original idea was like some weird techno track with an Elon Musk sample in it, but it had that drop lead, and
Yeah.
that drop lead is kind of what made me stick with the tune, because I was like, there's something cool about this. I like this. And then like literally it was just one day I like deleted all the drums out of the track and put a kick and the bass on there, which is wasn't the current one. I just did tweak the kick a little bit, but it just put that kind of like, I don't know, it's like a ravey sort of bass
Yeah.
that's in there. I was like, fuck, this is sick. And then yeah, just tweaking, bounced back. Like I did work on the track, got the vocal done, sent a early demo version of it to Will Atkinson, and he was like, "Fuck," he loved it. And then we sort of bounced back and forth. He was really really good to work with. He sort of gave me a few little ideas to really take the track up another notch. Yeah. Just working on a few of the synths. The original breakdown synth was like this kind of hard style synth, and it was his idea to do a trance synth, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So, swapping that over, and that's one of my favorite parts of the track, to be honest. That like fucking gritty square saw thing that comes in the break. Love that bit.
Yeah. So did you know Indy Stanton before you started working with her, or was it just kind of a sent a vocal and this is what she came back with, or did you know her before that?
Yeah, that was actually, we can talk about how that came about. So I was done at one of my good friends. He's runs a studio here in Adelaide. He works with a lot of vocalists, and I had the track there, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come in? I've got this singer called Indy Stanton, and she's pretty good."
Yeah.
And do you want to like get her to do a top line? I'm like, yeah, cool. That sounds like fun. So I took the track in, one session, jumped in, she came up with, I remember we were sitting on the couch, she's sort of shooting lines and saying a few things. I think because I said to her, I'm like, look, theme is like, it's already had the Lose Your Fucking Mind sample in there, which is actually a sample that Enya Angel recorded for me for an intro. I did a few effects to it. She was putting on like a UK secret agent voice, I think, for something that we had. So I had that in the track, and I was like, kind of like, I'm like, theme for the track, I really want it to be like, lose your fucking mind, like just fucking, let release that sort of like that feeling. And then Indy was going with that, and I remember sitting on the couch, and she said Finders Keepers. I'm like, what the fuck? How did you come up with that? I'm like, that is fucking sick.
Done. Absolutely signed, sealed, delivered, done.
Yeah, and then she got in the vocal booth, laid down some awesome takes, and I guess that was it.
Did you guys know then in your own head that it was going to be as big as what it's turned out to be? Obviously, if any of you don't know, which if you don't know, you must have been living under a rock, but the track actually went #1 on Beatport's Hard Dance chart. So did you guys know then? Did you have it in your own head? We've got something here.
Oh, I mean, it's always hard. You always say this. Like, I definitely had a feeling that the tune was something that I liked, and it was different.
Yeah.
I didn't like anticipate anywhere near the reaction that it would get. Like, I was like, yeah, it's a cool tune, be a cool one to get back into it. And it was just kind of like, yeah, doing Damage and Will sets for a while. And then when he dropped it, everyone was just hyped as fuck on it, obviously. And then, yeah, got to that number one spot for a week or so and a Beatport hard dance charts. And yeah, it's been supported by a few people. It's on ASOT. Marlowe's been playing it all around his sets, which is wicked. So yeah, I'm blown away by how much people are getting around the track.
Obviously, when I messaged you about it, this was before it went to number one. I'd heard it on. I think it might have been one of Will's sets. I don't know. I don't think it was Colours Fest. I think it was probably before that. Where I heard it in one of his sets, and I thought, wow, need to find out what that is. And then somebody says, oh, it's Uberjak'd, and I thought, right, fuck it, I am messaging Ben because that is massive. Yeah, it was just it was just one of those tracks. You listen to some tracks and you go through people's sets, and no disrespect to anything, but some of the, there's nothing really that sticks out and it makes a mark on you. But that track for me, Finders Keepers, and I'm not just saying this because you're on my podcast, but I did message you before that to say it was one of those tracks where it just went, fuck, wow, it's massive. It is massive. So I can only kind of keep praise on you for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take all the credit. Indy obviously put like a wicked vocal on that thing, and without that, I think it was just one of those tracks. Turned really well. I've got a couple others similar style that I'm working on at the moment. So yeah, I really want to like kind of play on that sound that I started with, that sort of, I don't know, it's like some weird little pocket between hardstyle and trance. That's just what I like.
Have you got anything? Have you working with any of the guys over here? Is there any kind of scope, or can you talk about anything like
that? There's conversations. Okay. I can't say anything. No,
of course not, mate. Of course not. But there's rumblings.
There is, yeah. There's things.
You'll see soon enough.
You'll see soon enough. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. We were talking about that. We were talking about earlier on. Your own vibe. You obviously had the Ubercast as well. Are you still doing the Ubercast?
Yeah, I am actually. I've kind of been I've been putting it off for a few weeks, just because this next one that I drop, I really want to debut like a stack of new music in it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, of course.
I've got there's like 3 or 4 new ones that I'm like been working on in the studio. So I was hoping to drop it this weekend. I may still do that.
It may still happen.
May still happen. I did plan to do that. So there's one track on there that I'm still working on. So
just for clearance for this interview, by time this hits all the streams, I would expect the Ubercast to be released. So
yeah,
when he says this weekend, by the time this is released, I reckon I would hazard a guess to say that the Ubercast will be released and there will be new Uberjak'd music within that Ubercast.
Yeah. Definitely. If it's not this Friday, it will definitely be the following one for sure.
Sweet, man. So, guys, keep your eyes peeled, because, as I say, the Ubercast was something that it was a podcast that I listened to to take inspiration for When the Needle Drops, and obviously the Dance Asylum as well that I've got as well. So when it drops, make sure you guys get on, get it shared, and get it liked, and make sure you are listening to the Ubercast. So Ben, what's next for Uberjak'd? Obviously, I know you said you've got a stack of new music to go into the next podcast, but is there any gigs coming up that you can talk about, or what's next music wise for you?
Yeah, like I said, I've got a couple tracks that are all like I can't really say anything official.
No, of course, mate. No, absolutely.
But yeah, there's new music. Yeah, if you want to check it out, definitely check out this next Ubercast. They'll be debuting a few new IDs in that one.
Yep.
As well as that, yeah, getting the next run of gigs together for like Aussie summer. So that's a couple months away, but that'll be the next, probably the first like actual tour I'm putting together for quite a while. So
when do you guys start your summer?
December.
December.
Mm-hmm.
December. It's weird when I think about you having Christmas on the beach.
Mate, you should come over.
Oh,
try it out.
I've been threatening to come over for probably since we started hanging out 6-7 years ago. I've been threatening to come over, but I think it's one of those places that I definitely need to come over and visit, do a little tour and come see some of the boys over there. That's definitely on the bucket list.
Well, if you ever make it to Adelaide, you've got a place to crash, mate. I'll look after you.
Sweet man. So as I say, so you're saying heap of new music, loads of guys coming up. Are you hoping to come over this side of the world at any point?
Yeah, I am. I've just got a few things in the works, so I'll definitely definitely something. I do really want to come back over to the UK. I've always had such a wicked time over there, and just all the support. A lot of the DJs that are supporting Finders Keepers seem to be over there, so it'll be cool to come over and meet some people.
Certainly the big boys over here, like Will Atkinson, David Russ, those kind of people. They've all been all been smashing Finders Keepers. So it'd be good to see you guys on the same lineup or doing some stuff together. But Ben, listen, mate. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. Let's not make it as long next time. Let's not try and I know we do bits and pieces and we speak here and there, but let's not try and make it as long that we actually sit down and have a conversation. And hopefully we will get you over here soon. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been When the Needle Drops. I am your host, Macca, and for the last probably about 45 minutes, we have been chatting to Uberjak'd. So what I'll do is I'll post all of Ben's socials, the links on social media, and you check it out and obviously go over and share and like the Ubercast, and hopefully we'll get some new Uberjak'd music very soon.
Mate, thanks for having me on. Always good to chat, and let's not leave it so long next time.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks, Ben. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, brother.